Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm gonna share the easiest recipe and the only recipe that you are ever gonna need for all your parathas and puris and lachha paratha needs. It's the simplest dough, requires only 3 ingredients, and you can make frozen parathas, lachha parathas, puri parathas, and even plain puris with this. So let's start with the recipe. Here I have a mixture of all-purpose flour and whole wheat flour. You're gonna need about 1 to 1 1/4 cup of water. It can be more or less depending on your flour. Then for the layering of the lachha parathas and the puri parathas, I have all-purpose flour and ghee. You can also use melted butter. And to that, I'm adding 1 egg white, which is optional. That's something I picked from Shiriappa. I feel that it makes your layering a bit more defined, but it's optional. You can skip it. Your parathas will be absolutely amazing without it as well. So to start kneading the dough, I'm gonna add in my water very slowly, and you are going to mix it just as if you are making your regular roti or paratha or chapatti dough. It needs to be almost the same consistency. Add water little by little, and my water is lukewarm. Make sure your water is lukewarm, not hot, not cold, but lukewarm. That really makes or breaks your dough. Now I have shifted it on to a flat surface, and I'm adding water as needed, and you want to knead it for at least 5 to 6 minutes. Punch it in just like you would your regular chapatti dough, and after a good 5-6 minutes, put it back into your bowl and cover it with a damp cloth and let it rest for about 20 to 30 minutes so that the gluten has had a chance to rest. After that, you're going to add in your oil or melted ghee or melted butter. Make sure if you're using melted ghee or melted butter, it's back to room temperature, it's not hot. And now I have shifted my dough to the KitchenAid. You can use your hands, whatever easy for you, and it needs to be kneaded till it's smooth, and you're going to notice that it has a shine to it. That's when you know it's ready. It's going to take about 5 to 6 minutes, and on my KitchenAid I did it on medium for about 4 minutes. And this is the consistency and the texture of your dough, and just like any dough, it needs to be rested. You can make it right away, but what happens is once you start rolling and stretching your dough, it comes back and it shrinks, and to avoid that, it's a good idea always, whatever dough you're making, to give it a little bit of a rest at each step so it's easier for you to roll it out and flatten it. Now I'm going to divide this dough into half. I'm going to put away 1/2 for the lachha parathas and the puri parathas, and with this half we're going to be making our puris, which I actually did the next day because it's the easiest thing you can make with this dough. I thought that I would show it here. All you have to do is make a ball. You can make all of your balls and let them rest if you want. Since I had already kept it in the fridge the night before, it had rested, and once you want to start rolling out your parathas, your puris, what you have to do is take it out from the fridge and let it come to room temperature before rolling it out. In case you're forming all the dough balls together so that you can roll them out at once, make sure that you have them covered in some sort of a container or with some sort of a towel, otherwise it can form a crust. Also try to roll your puri or puri paratha as thin as possible because this do shrink a little bit once you fry it, and it gets a little bit thick. And it's the opposite actually for the lachha parathas. I'm going to show you ahead in the video what you have to do differently when you're making those. And also the heat that you fry them on is extremely important. It needs to be medium to medium high. Your oil shouldn't be smoking, but it should be really hot, and it takes about 10 to 15 seconds for each puri or puri paratha to be done. And if it's not high enough, if the oil is not hot enough, what's going to happen is your puri is going to get chewy. It's going to take a little while to fluff up, which is going to make it chewy and not soft and crispy and fluffy. So now let's come back to the puri parathas and the lachha parathas. I am going to roll it out together. If you like, you can pin each paratha separately, but I feel like that's too much work. So what I like to do is see how the surface I have, and then I do maybe 5 or 6 parathas together. I'm going to be doing 4 here. So roll it out as thin as you possibly can, and then brush on with your hands or with a brush, whatever you have, with the layering paste that we made in the beginning, and roll all of this out. The thinner the paratha that you have rolled before layering, the more layers, the more lachas your parathas, your puri paratha and your lachha paratha is gonna have. And also what helps is if you keep the layering paste a little bit towards the cooler side, if the ghee or the butter in that is melting, your paratha is gonna be sliding around everywhere. So I generally put it in the fridge for a little bit till it's almost like a softened butter consistency, and then just like that you have all of your parathas pinned and ready to go. You can also put them in a container, in an airtight container, for a couple of hours depending on how hot or cold it is where you're living, and then you can roll them out. You can also put them in the fridge. You can pin them out and put them in the fridge, and then once you're ready to roll them out, you can roll them. But I find it's easier to just do them together and freeze them, because these do freeze beautifully. And these, just like puris, the puri parathas have to be rolled out fairly thin, because they also fluff up and they also shrink a lot while you're frying. So this is how, if you want to freeze them for later use a few layers of parchment paper so that all the parathas are separate and not sticking. If they are sticking, use a little bit of oil. I would recommend not using any sort of a flour when you're making these, because that do change the consistency of your parathas. And just save them up for 30 to 60 days and use whenever you want them. And for the frozen parathas, keep your temperature a little bit towards the higher sides, because once you add a frozen thing in, it is going to drop the temperature. If you're making them fresh, medium high is good. Really hot but not smoking is what you're going for. And it's again going to take about 10 to 15 seconds to fluff up. And there you have it. Your beautiful layered puri paratha is ready to go. It's perfect for all your roll paratha needs. Really soft and delicious. So the same method is gonna be for your lachha parathas. If you are making them specifically to make lachha parathas, I would highly recommend you make them thicker. Do not roll them out as thin, because when you are making them as a lachha paratha on a stove with just maybe a teaspoon of oil, they don't shrink and they don't thicken up. So it's a good idea to make them thicker before. Also, I wanted to share here, if ever your paratha gets stuck to the parchment paper, just put it on a hot pan, let it start cooking, and it's gonna start to leave the parchment on its own. It won't be sticking to it anymore, and that's how you can easily get it off. This is also true if you're making other store-bought frozen parathas. So this is ready, and I'm gonna show you all the layers it has. The thinner you roll it out before layering it, the more layers and the more lachas it's gonna have. This is just a very basic one. If you don't want to fry your puri parathas, you can turn them easily into lachha parathas and serve them up that way. So now this is what I really wanted to share with you guys. I made these yesterday around evening, and it's the next morning, and I wanted to show you how soft and how amazing they still are. They're perfect. They stay soft for a very long time, so you don't have to worry about them getting hard or crispy or chewy. Would you look at that, how soft that is, how easily that's breaking. And you can easily turn them into, that's what I'm going to do here actually. I'm going to turn the leftover parathas into paratha rolls, and the tissue that I'm using here is to blot any extra oil that is on the roll. So that's my 3-ingredient dough for all your paratha needs. If you like this recipe, please subscribe to my channel, give this video a big thumbs up, and share it with your friends and family. Do remember me in your prayers. Until next time, the homemaker baker over and out.